Welcome to Leadership Live with Anton Gunn. And today we are talking about leading your team through job market uncertainty. Now, when I say job market uncertainty, I want you to pay attention to what is happening right now in the United States of America. And to some degree, it is happening around the world in certain countries. And that is the job market is tightening. More specifically, your team is afraid of what is to come because there's so much uncertainty in the job market. Now, what do I mean uncertainty in the job market? Let me read you a few statistics that I read about in the last 7 days. Number one, the jobs report last week from the Department of Labor was one that we have not seen in more than 16 years. That the unemployment rate, or when I say unemployment rate, I'm not even going to talk about unemployment rate. Let me just tell you the facts of how many jobs were gone in the last month. 172,000 jobs are gone. Now, a lot of those jobs are gone because of Doge and because of Elon Musk slashing federal jobs in real time. But that's just not the only thing. They have also canceled contracts, which means these are private companies with private employees who supported the federal government in some way, and those contracts have been canceled. Not only that, the fear around these trade wars and tariffs and all of those things are making companies make decisions to lay people off because they don't believe that they're going to have the revenue coming in. And of course, we don't even need to talk about the stock market because the news has been covering that incessantly, these massive drops in the Dow Jones or the S&P 500 or the stock market overall. This means companies are being more conservative. So they're either not backfilling positions or they're directly laying people off. Now, let me tell you how bad it is, because I want you to understand how bad it is. That we haven't seen this amount of layoffs and job loss since July of 2020. Now, I want you to remember what was happening in July of 2020. We were literally 4 months in to the great pandemic, COVID-19 pandemic. That's what we were in the middle of. That's when we all started to realize this thing wasn't going to be over in a month, that it wasn't going to be over in 2 months, and that we would be in that position for more than a year. So I want you to understand the following, that we are in some uncertain times. Nobody knows when the next shoe is going to drop or what the next shoe is look like. And your team is feeling that fear. They're concerned about the stability of your organization, the job that they have. And guess what? It doesn't matter what industry you're in. You might even be in state government, and in your position might be funded by federal dollars, especially if you're working in education. If you process student loans or scholarship applications, or maybe you get funding to your local K through 12 schools, there is some uncertainty. And if you're in private industry that depend on schools to buy your technology, like Apple or Google, all these Chromebooks that kids get at school, those companies might be cutting back as well. So it doesn't matter if you're in the public sector, the private sector, or even the nonprofit sector, there is a significant level of uncertainty. In February jobs report was the worst February since the Great Recession of 2009. Like literally February 2009, we were losing 700,000 jobs a month. Now we're not at 700,000, but this is how bad it is right now. The worst job report in 16 years. So that's the landscape today. So if you're a leader who leads a team, I want you to understand that right now it's important for you to get your team out of this state of fear that they're in. You have to get them focused. And when I mean focus, you have to get them focused in a way that allows them to navigate this job market uncertainty. Because you know what? I'm going to tell you this as a former employee who's worked in several organizations, that when you start to see these changes in the economy, these changes in the job market, if you start to lay people off in your organization, nobody wants to get caught flat-footed and be laid off. So you know what they're going to do? They're going to make sure they don't get laid off by quitting before they get laid off. They're going to go somewhere else. They're going to find a new job. They're going to literally be aggressive about getting another opportunity. And that is scary to you because you don't want to lose your talent. You don't want to lose your people just because of the uncertainty in the marketplace, which means you have to do something different. So for the next few minutes, I'm going to lay out 4 things that you should be doing with your team if you want to get them focused rather than fearful about all of these things that are happening. And I want you to get them focused and keep them focused. I want you to be focused on the right things yourself. I want you to lead people through the uncertainty. So here's number 1. First thing you need to do is you need to be a source of stability. So being a source of stability as a leader requires you to do 3 things. Number 1, to communicate. Number 2, control what you can control. And number 3, just be honest about what's going down. So I gave you a few statistics around 245% increase in job loss in the last month, 172,000 jobs. That's real. So here's my question for you. Has your organization laid people off? If so, how many? What percentage? What department? That's information that you need to know. And you need to be honest and acknowledge the reality that you are tightening your belts in your organization. Don't be tightening the belt and you let your employees find out about it in the newspaper. You need to be the leader who tells them that things are tightening around here. You need to acknowledge it. You need to say it. Then you need to control what you can control, which is you may not be able to control every department, but you can control how you engage with your team. And you need to over communicate because change can happen in a day. Now, let me give you an example of what this looked like for me. I am a former C-suite executive at a large hospital system. I led a team that had a total number of people around 35, my entire team. And so when I was at the executive table with the CEO, the COO, the chief financial officer, and the chief HR officer, we were having discussions about how our economics was changing as an organization. And that if revenues didn't turn around in the next 6 months, we might need to lay some people off. That literally was the conversation. So imagine it being June, and literally you're hearing from your CEO that if finances don't turn around in the next 6 months, we might need to start laying people off. So that means you're going to be doing layoffs in December. The worst time to lay somebody off at the end of the year, when the holidays are coming, when people want to be with their families. You don't want to contribute to a negative cycle. So when I heard this information in June, and it wasn't actually June, but I'm saying it was June since I said the 6 months, the first thing that I did is I wanted to be a source of stability to my team. So I didn't want them to hear about these potential layoffs in the rumor mill. So I called a leadership team meeting of my team, which is I had about 9 people who we considered to be leaders over this 35-person group. I brought them all in and I told them, if things don't turn around, we're going to potentially have some layoffs. And I don't want any of you to get caught flat-footed or by surprise with that. So here's what I need you to do. I need you to make sure you update your resume and document all the success that you've had. I want you to have a narrative of why you're the best person on this team so that if layoffs start to come, I can justify to HR why you need to stay, why you're so valuable. I need you to also dust off your resume and update your resume just in case you do have to go, that you'll be primed to look for a new opportunity in the job market. That yes, that fear and uncertainty was out there, but I chose to be a source of stability for my people, to tell them and acknowledge the truth of what's going on. Tell them to control what they can control. They can control their resume. They can control their LinkedIn profile. They can control to document their experiences. Give them something to do that helps them to be focused on themselves. And I communicated with them on a regular basis. And I told them, if anything changes in this, if it gets better, I'm going to let you know. If it gets worse, I'm going to let you know. So if that 6-month timeline went down to 4 months, you're going to hear about it from me next month. If that 6-month timeline expanded out to 9 months, you're going to hear it about me. I'm going to take the pressure off by being a source of stability and communicating, controlling what I can control, and acknowledging the reality. That's the first thing that you need to do if you want to get your team focused and not wallowed up in the fear. You got to be a source of stability. That's number one. Number two is you got to shift the focus from that threat of job loss to the opportunities that are right in front of you, the opportunities that are right in front of them. Now, what do I mean by that? There's this phrase, I don't know if it's a phrase or an adage or what people say. You know how sometimes people say that in Chinese, the word crisis and opportunity is exactly the same? I don't really know if that's true. So if you know anybody who speaks Chinese or can write Chinese, and find out for sure if the symbol crisis and opportunity is exactly the same, because some people will tell you that it is true, or at least that's what I've heard in the streets. And I don't know if the streets is accurate on this one because I don't speak or read Chinese. I'm just not that good. I can do a lot of things, but I can't do that. But let's just say the symbol for crisis and opportunity is exactly the same. That means whenever there's a crisis, and I would say uncertainty, job loss, 245% increase in job loss, 172,000 jobs is a crisis for somebody. It's a crisis for that person that's getting laid off right now. It might be a crisis for you on your department that if you got 100 people, you lose 50 people. That might be a crisis for you. So how do you turn that into an opportunity? You turn it into an opportunity by using that crisis as a moment to become more adaptable, to improvise, adapt, and overcome. So how do you shift that focus from threat to opportunity? Well, it is encouraging your team to be adaptable. It's to figure out how to make lemonade with the lemons that you've been served. It is totally up to you. You got to find a way to make lemonade out of the lemons that you've been served. You got to figure out, is there a silver lining to all of this? Is there a silver lining to how all this adversity is coming at us? Like if you work in the federal government or you're in a federal agency, is there some silver lining into Elon Musk coming through and indiscriminately cutting stuff that he don't understand? I don't know if it is, but there might be some silver lining. There might be some silver lining to you having to report every day what you do every day. Because there are people who work in organizations who are invisible. Nobody knows who they are. Nobody acknowledges them or checks on them. And maybe the first time ever that they have to turn in the 5 things that they did last week, that somebody actually knows the amazing work that they do every day. I'm not saying it is, but I'm saying that your job as a leader is to try to get your team to be adaptable and find the silver lining. The second thing you got to do as a part of this whole shifting from threat to opportunity is you got to develop your people. Focus on development. So when this job market uncertainty comes, you should do what I did to my team. I not only told them to dust off their resumes, I not only told them to make sure their LinkedIn profile was up to date, I told them, make sure you get in the learning portal and take as many courses and classes that you can. If there is a conference that you can go to or an online workshop that you can take it, and I will make sure you get credit for it in the system. You need to brush up on your skills. You need to develop your skills. You need to get your skills together. When this uncertainty is around, you want to make sure your people's resumes is tight, but their skills are even tighter. So you got to focus on development, learning and development. Let your people have a day to go take a course in project management. If they can get their PMP certificate before they leave you, let them get it. If there's some other certification they want, let them get it. The focus is you got to show them that this might be the opportunity for them to get the job of a lifetime. That won't be working for you. That's okay, because you want your people to grow and you want them to go onto the best opportunity for them. They might even get new skills to help you out to save their job. So you got to get them to focus on the opportunity and not the threat. And the last thing you should be doing on this second thing is you need to celebrate the small wins. There will be some small wins. It might be somebody completing a certification, or the small wins is that we made it another month and nobody got laid off. That we made it another 2 weeks and we heard no more bad news. You got to celebrate the small wins in these uncertain times. So that's the second thing, is a shift the focus from threat to opportunity. Now, the third thing that you need to do is you need to build a resilient culture. You need to build a resilient culture. Now, what does a resilient culture look like? Well, first of all, it means that you have created safe spaces for your team to tell you what they're feeling and what they're going through. Because this ain't easy. Uncertainty is never easy. Potential layoffs are not easy. Job loss is not easy. Industry starting to recede is not easy. Trade wars and calamity and collapse, none of those things are easy. So people need to feel like when they come to work that they can process and talk about this uneasiness. And as a leader, you got to create a safe space for folks. You got to give them the opportunity to be able to vent, to be able to talk about and process what's going down. And that's up to you as a leader to create that space, to allow time on a team meeting agenda. Hey, let's do a check-in. On a scale of 1 to 5, how you feeling about how things are going? 1 being terrible, 5 being terrific. I want everybody to give me a score. And you let them give you a score. And then when they give you the score, if they give you anything below a 4, say, tell me more about that. Why did you give it a 3? What is concerning you right now? And let them talk it out. Create that safe space for your team. That's what good leaders do. You also need to get them to take ownership of their future. So if you're talking about building resiliency, you got to understand that everybody got to know that they're responsible for their own future. That the future is not controlled by you or the CEO or the shareholders or the board members or the stock price or Elon Musk, Donald Trump, and Doge. That they need to own their opportunity, that they have some control. They can control their mindset. They can control what they say. They can control how they respond to things and not react to things. That there is some agency that they still have, that they have power. You want to remind your team that their nickname is Chill Rob G. They got the power. And if you don't get that reference, I want you to go Google Chill Rob G and the power. With the crack of this whip of uncertainty, your team can snap back because they need to have an ownership mentality. You got to get them focused on ownership and being an ownership type of person. And here's the third thing you need to do if you really want to build a resilient culture. You as a leader have to stay optimistic. You got to be an internal optimist. There's a creed that I have on my wall right here as I look this way. It's called the Optimist Creed. And the first line of it is to be so strong, or actually promise yourself to be so strong that nothing can disturb your peace of mind. That talk health, happiness, and prosperity to every person you meet. So I'm telling you, if you're leading your team right now, your job is to promise yourself to be strong enough that nothing disturbs your peace of mind. That you talk health, happiness, and prosperity to every person on your team. That's the first two lines of the Optimist Creed. You got to be the optimist. I'm not saying be toxic positive at all, but to be optimistic, like Jadakiss and Sheik Luke's would tell you, is that we gonna make it. We gonna make it. Doesn't matter how hard it is, we gonna make it. We gonna get through this. Keep your head to the stars, baby Bubba. That's what you need to be telling your team. That's the third thing, is to build a resilient culture. That's what I need you to do. Now, here's the last thing as a leader. If your team is going through job market uncertainty, your industry is going through job market uncertainty, you need to, number 4, lead with vision. And when I mean lead with vision, I'm literally saying that you got to have a vision of how you're going to get through this short-term period, because these things don't last forever. Everything goes in cycle. Like I just told you, it's been 16 years since we had a February like this. It's been 5 years since we had this amount of job loss, in 1 month. Like, there are literally cycles to all of these things. So how do you help your team? By leading them with vision. Number 1, keep them focused on the small goals. There's some small goals, short-term goals. It might be to document all your systems and processes so that, if they do get laid off, at least you'll be able to get the work done on the back end. So you got to help people by focusing on the small goals, the short-term goals, the simple things that are right in front of people. Those annual year-end goals, they may not even be relevant anymore now that you're having this level of uncertainty, because if you lose 50% of your team, it don't matter what the goal was. You can't accomplish that with half as many people. But there's something that you probably can accomplish. So you got to focus on the short-term goals. What's your 30-day goals? What's your 60-day goals? What's your weekly goals? You got to keep people focused on the short term right now. The next thing you need to do is to remind people about their why they chose to work here, why they chose to go into this career path. Why? The personal reasons why people do what they do. Because in uncertainty, the thing that might keep people motivated is remembering their calling, why they chose this career path. I mean, like in healthcare, this is like critical. Why did you want to be a nurse in the first place? Yeah, layoffs might be coming and we might be having these problems, but why did you choose to do this field over everything else? Because most of us ain't getting rich at the job that we're doing. We do it because we care about the work that we do, or at least the people that we do it with, or maybe the patients that we get to serve, or the customers that we get to serve. There's a why behind the what you do. And with vision, it means recentering people on the why. It's sharing with them your why you choose to do this work. Like, let me show you very quickly my why. The reason why I do this work is because I believe that nobody deserves to work in a toxic environment, a bad environment, that everybody deserves to be valued, respected, and included in the workplace. And more importantly, we need to develop the people in our workplaces to leaders, and develop those leaders into agents of change that can improve culture for everybody. That's my why. And why do I have that why? Is because I used to be in a toxic environment. I used to be in an environment where I didn't feel valued or respected or included. I didn't feel like I controlled my own destiny. I felt paralyzed every day. You might even say I was depressed sometimes about my experience. But I wanted to get out of it, and I got out of it. And now I want to lead other people out of it. And that's my why. So it don't matter what Doge does or Elon Musk does or Trump does or what the stock market does, what happens on Wall Street. I'm leaning into doing what I do because I love it. I value it. I know that I'm making a difference. And this is what God put me here to do. That's my why. And the last part of the leading with vision is this, is to stay visible. The last thing you want to do if your team is facing uncertainty is to go MIA on them. If imagine me being at the C-suite table and all day long I'm in meetings with the executives, but I never meet with my team. I never go around and check on them. I never come by their apartment. I never come by and do anything with them. Imagine that if my door stays closed all the time because I'm in there panicking about me losing my job, which there was a fear about that too when we were going through those layoffs, that in 6 months, I was worried that I wouldn't have my job. So I could hide in fear and be selfish and worry about myself and be invisible to my team. But there was no way I was going to do that because in times of uncertainty, people need a guiding light. And you need to remember that you might be that guiding light. You might be that lighthouse when stormy waters are all around you. Stormy waters are all around your team. You need to be the lighthouse. The one thing that people can stay focused on, that they can see their way through the uncertainty, might be you, their leader. So I'm telling you right now, you have to lead with vision that requires you to be visible, that requires you to remind people of their why and to remind them of your why. It requires you to set these short-term goals. So there you have it. Let me summarize as I close. Your team is going through uncertainty right now. Lots of job loss, lots of economic uncertainty, trade wars. Doge and Elon Musk are cutting and slashing federal jobs. Federal contracts are being cut. And we've had the worst job report since July of 2020. And we haven't had this bad of a trend since the Great Recession of 2009. And your team knows all of this is happening right now. And you need to get them focused rather than sitting in this fear of the uncertainty. So here are the 4 things that you need to do. Number 1, you need to be a source of stability. Number 2, you need to shift their focus from threat to opportunity. Number 3, you need to build a resilient culture. And number 4, you need to lead with vision. Now, I hope this has been valuable to you. I hope as you process all of the change and the uncertainty around you, that you give your team something that keeps them focused on the right things and not the wrong things. Because we're going to be in for the ride of our lives. And it ain't going to be a good ride. But you have to be the one to lead them through the uncertainty. It requires you to do these things. And I'm going to be right alongside you, giving you as much value and insight as I can. So if this was impactful to you, please comment, please like, please share this with someone, because I'm here to help to get you through these uncertain times. Everybody have a fantastic day.